Big Brother Canada 4 has come to a close, which means it's time for another edition of the Reality TV RHAPpy Hour. What's going on, everybody? My name's Jordan Parhar, and I'm with you once again to recap the latest edition of Big Brother Canada 4 on robhasawebsite.com. And today I wanted to bring out the big guns tonight because we have Game of Thrones premiering. We have the NBA and NHL playoffs on right now, so it's very competitive right now to grab people's attention. So I figured now would be the correct time to bring out Godfrey Mangwiza, the lady pleaser, to recap the latest episode of Big Brother. Godfrey, how are you doing, brother?
Yeah, what's up, man? Yeah, I'm good. And by the way, I'm the only one he could afford. That's why he brought me on.
Not true at all, Godfrey. Come on, you're selling yourself short, buddy. If I was going cheap, I would have just called Paul Jackson again, and Paul would have been here in a flash. And with us as well to co-host, he's working overtime. I think this is like his 5th show in a row that he's been on, but this is just how the scheduling works with all the live feeders. They all have different schedules that work well for them. Brent happens to be able to do Sunday nights, so he's with us once again. Brent Wolgamott, ladies and gentlemen. Brent, how are you?
What he's trying to say, people, is that I have no life. I'm lazy as you know what, and I just sit at home and watch feeds all the time. So that's what's going on.
Oh man, both you guys are just so self-deprecating tonight. Usually, that's
learn from you, JP.
Yeah, I guess hanging out with me a little bit too much. All right, so just to set things up for you guys. So we are live on Google Hangout just to set things up for you guys. So if you want to get your questions in, there's 2 ways you can do that. You can tweet me. I'm at Jordan Parhar. Use the hashtag RHAPpy Hour, and we'll get into those later on in the show. The better way, though, to leave your questions is to go on the YouTube video itself and leave a comment on the YouTube video. That way we can get into those later on in the show. We're going to start off talking about the episode, and then in the second half, we'll give you guys a heads up when we're talking about spoilers. So no spoiler talk for the first little bit if you are worried about that. So stick around. Should be a lot of fun. Okay, Godfrey, let's talk about this episode. Really, it came down to Casso's HOH. She's got a decision. Yeah. She's got to decide, okay, am I going to target the brothers or am I going to target Jared? Ultimately, she decides she's going to nominate the brothers. Godfrey, is that the right decision?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely the right decision. The brothers last week were coming after one of Cassandra's closest allies, Tim. They were really campaigning heavy to get him out. And, you know, it's safe to say if Tim left the house, like, Cassandra would be pretty weak right now. So I think she did the smart thing, you know.
Yeah, I think ultimately this is the way to go with it. I could understand if she wanted to put up Jared because he is threatening, but like you said, I think that the brothers clearly are going for Tim. They haven't gone on the block, and they've shown that they do. They kind of do some crazy things when they do get nominated. Brent, we saw the brothers say in the episode tonight that they wanted to go. Phil said he wanted to go crazy if he got nominated. That's what they were put in the house to do. Is that? I mean, without getting too spoilery, that's not actually what's been going down, is it, Brent?
No, of course not. That's just Phil. Phil talks like a really, really big game. And like I said before, it's terrible because he has his brother in the house with him, so his brother and him just feed each other a constant line of bullshit. Like they literally, like they're in the bullshit so long, they start to believe it. They really do. And you know, the only thing you saw a little bit was them like being really cocky during the nomination ceremony. Phil thinks he's playing a great game. He thinks he's the mastermind. He thinks he's Derek. He thinks he's Derek. Yeah. And so he wanted Cassandra to say, you know, I'm nominating you guys, the brothers, because you're playing such a masterful game like Derek from you know, BB16. Like they wanted her to say this. Of course, I'm glad she didn't say it. I'm serious. I'm not kidding. And then the other thing they did was
like they were telling her to say it as they go on.
Yeah, exactly. Right when they're nominated,
they were asking her to say it when they.
Yeah, they wanted her to say that, exactly. And then when she was explaining to them that she was probably going to nominate them, they basically had a hissy fit and told her that that's laughable. Like they used that word a couple times. And then right after they told her that that was laughable, then they asked her if they could listen to her iPod or her music thing, and she's like, I don't know, that might be kind of laughable. So she wasn't having any of the stuff that they were serving.
Oh man, wow. Yeah, thoughts. What do you think about the brothers' game in general so far, Godfrey? Because going into last week, I thought that they had a decent chance to win, but right now, I just don't really see a path for them at this moment.
Here's what I think about the brothers. The brothers were really playing a masterful game, but it's like they have a curse. Like when they get power, they let it go to their head. That's when you see their true colors come out. Like before they didn't have any power, they were playing a really low key game, influencing people, telling them, hey, do this. This is the right move. But when they get the power, they're just out there with it. They're like, they're no longer behind the scenes. They're like literally trying to control the moves going on in the game. And I think that's really what hurt them, especially Phil. Like Nick seems like the calm brother who really wants to do things methodically. And then Phil, like he's believing his own hype. He's in his own land right now,
Godfrey, you're a big wrestling fan.
He'll probably be surprised when he leaves the house, too.
Yeah, Godfrey, you're a big wrestling fan. Don't you think Phil would be a good wrestling character in that, like, he would think, like, he was, like, really good and then the WWE...
he'd make a great heel, man.
Yeah, right? I feel like he'd be so good. He needs to give the WWE
half the time I hear this guy, I think he's cutting a promo or something, man. He really does, man. Like, he might have a job waiting for him outside there. Like, he can talk a big game, man. Like, if you were watching Big Brother for the first night and you heard this guy talk, you probably think he's the greatest player of all time, man.
Yeah, not quite. But for poor Phil, even though he wants to be compared to Derek. Let's talk about Nikki as well, Godfrey. She was put up as the pawn, and she actually seemed to take it pretty well. Were you surprised that Nikki was able to handle it in such a calm manner?
Like, to be honest, I think, like, when Nikki came inside the house, she didn't really understand the game, Like, she's probably used to playing the UK version where they just sit around and have fun. But when she came here, she probably, like, realized soon enough that, man, like, this is an actual cutthroat game. And right now, I think what we're starting to see is her realize her role and embrace it. And I think the reason she was really calm is because she knows she truly is just a pawn. And I think she's even playing on it. You even heard her say herself, she's like, I don't want to go to the DR and do all the campaigning and all of that. Like, she's more upset at having to go to the DR and plead her case than she is about being nominated, because she just wants to chill and have fun. So, yeah, I think she's starting to realize that she's really in a powerful position, and that's why she's not, like, having a whole breakdown over it.
We're now at the point where, I mean, after this week, if Nikki can survive this, I mean, and after the double, we're going to be down to, I think, 5 people left in the house. So, I mean, yeah, so, I mean, she's still probably going to be around, and there's a chance she could win this game. Godfrey, you said on the sideshow at the beginning of the season, you were liking Nikki's game. Would you be okay with the Nikki win?
I was, and I still am. Yeah. I still am, but the thing is, I just don't feel the house gets to respect her game. Like, even the way they were saying it, that, just put Nikki, no one will vote her out. Like, I just feel like, and on top of that, not only do they not respect her game, she's also a foreigner who's coming in and playing the game, so that's like a double strike. Like, if they're not going to want to give her the vote because they don't necessarily think she played a great game, then they're surely not going to want to give her the vote because they might be like, hey, she's not Canadian, she's rich, or whatever other reason. That's why I think it's a really low chance that, like, someone like Nikki's gonna win.
Yeah, it would be amazing if she could win. But I mean, I don't know if
the only way for her to win is to be like, hey guys, I'm actually a scientist or something. I've been playing you all. I'm actually a doctor. Then they might give it a vote because of like, man, this girl was actually smart.
Yeah, Godfrey, she would have needed you to coach her in the preseason to tell her to talk about the Injured Raccoon Society and say that she works with you, and then maybe maybe that could be her big reveal at the end of the season, and then that would help her win. But yeah, otherwise, I can't really fathom a scenario in which Nikki wins, even against Kelsey, because these house guests have really talked about. We want 2 Canadians in the end. We want a Canadian to win. Brent, that sentiment was pretty big last week. Is that something that is still reigning supreme in the House?
Yeah, it's definitely something that they talk about, but it's not being as talked about this week. I don't think anybody is really realistically thinking about getting Nikki out. I mean, Jared and Kelsey and the brothers are sort of believing their own delusion that maybe they can get Joel on their side. But of course, what they don't see is that Joel is really with Cassandra and Tim. Joel is not in any universe going to vote with the brothers and Jared and Kelsey.
Let's talk about that alliance that Cassandra's in right now, Godfrey. The Freak Show, which consists of Cassandra, Joel, and Tim. We saw in the episode tonight that Cassandra is actually she thinks that she said that Joel is her number one, and she wants to go to the end with him. Were you surprised at that? Because personally, I was.
Like, I honestly thought she was trolling when she said that. Like, I'd have to see, her probably reflect on it. But yeah, I don't think she was telling the truth. There's no way in her right mind she'd want to go with Jared. Like, I don't think even Kelsey should be wanting to go to the final with Jared, because there's this whole perception in the house that is this great player, even though the guy hasn't done anything so far except for be like an intimidating factor in the house. So I don't think she's serious about that.
I may have misspoke. Did I say Jared? I meant Joel. She said she wanted to go to the end with Joel, Godfrey. Were you surprised she said Joel rather than Tim? Yeah, because to me, it seemed like Cassandra was a lot closer to Tim than she is to Joel.
I think she's a lot closer to Tim, but she knows that Tim is a great social player, and she probably thinks she has a better chance of winning with Joel. But yeah, that was a bit surprising, like. They seem to have a love-hate relationship, and you always think when it comes down to it, they're going to choose each other. But I guess that just shows she's a lot more calculating than we thought.
Right. I will say, JP, in Godfrey's defense, there have been times where Cassandra has talked about taking Jared to the end. She's definitely been trolling people when she's been saying this, but she has talked about it, like with Kelsey, I know I could go to the end with him, or she said it in the diary room a few times where, I could beat him at the end. Even on this last podcast we did, Alex was talking, our live feeder was talking about that he thinks it would be close with Jared and Cassandra at the end. I do not share his opinion. I think it would be a complete blowout for Jared to win at the end if Jared went to the end with Cassandra. It's not all that far-fetched that was one of the possibilities that was being discussed.
Brent, quick question as well. Could Cassandra beat, who could she beat at the end right now? Because you say that, Jared she probably would lose to. I think I would agree with that. I think she would probably lose to Tim. I think she could lose to the brothers. So does she have to go to the end with one of Joel, Nikki, or Kelsey to win this game?
I think she needs to go to the end with Joel, Nikki, or Kelsey. Yeah, exactly. I don't think she can win against the brothers. I don't think she can win against Tim unless there's a really strong, pro-Canada sentiment, which I don't. When it comes down to it, you still have gotten to know these people for 10 weeks. Are you really going to, stick your key in the box just because someone isn't from the country you say you're from? Canada is known as this big melting pot. They love being the international house. So I don't really think that's going to carry any weight in the jury house.
Okay, interesting. I'm excited to see what happens with this because there's so many ways this can go with the double that completely. There's so much Big Brother that is left to be played, even though we have 2 weeks and a bit left in this game. Sure. It's crazy. Okay, Godfrey, let's continue to work backwards. Before we saw the nominations, we saw Nikki go to Joel saying, "I need help. I need help with my speech. I really need help with my speech," which I found pretty funny. I guess you didn't actually need a speech. I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on the number of speeches this season in general that are very aggressive, Godfrey? Because before last season, we never really saw this many people go out on a whim and make major speeches, but we've seen it multiple times this season. We saw it with Dallas when he was nominated. We saw it with Maddie when she was nominated the first time with Cassandra, "Your ass is grass," and then she said it again. She said, "This isn't Lover's Paradise," stealing your line, even though she was making out with Ramsey sometimes. And then we also saw it with Mitch, with his plea to stay in the house when he's up against Joel. So, what do you think about? So what do you think about all these speeches this season, Godfrey? Do you think that this is because of what you did last season?
I definitely think I might have inspired a couple some might have actually like ripped off my speech at Maddie. But yeah, like I think people are realizing more and more that, you know, if you're going out, like if it's inevitable that you might be voted out, you might as well go out with a bang and like, you know, call some people out, man. Like at the end of the day, these people are pretty much ruining your dream by voting you out. Like, why be nice and be like, oh yeah, great game, guys. I enjoyed living with y'all. No, like, you know, come out, say what you gotta say. However, what I'm not impressed about with is I feel like the speeches are not being well calculated, you know? Like when you do a speech like that, you don't want to call people out right away and burn all the bridges you had. Like you remember this, Jordan, in the house, when I called out Zach, I was sitting in the pantry with you guys and I'm like, y'all know that speech I just said? It was all for show, man. I was just playing around. See, you gotta kind of like play it a bit. But when I went to the other house and they asked me, like, Godfrey, were you serious about that speech? I'm like, hell yeah, I'm dead serious. He said the speech too. I'm like, nah, man, I was playing. But these guys, I feel like they say the speech and like they actually mean it and they're serious. I'm like, no, that's not the trick, you know. Like you gotta say it, but then you gotta make like some people believe it, and you gotta tell the people you said it to that, hey, I didn't mean it, my bad. And I feel like, you know, especially when Mitch did it, like this guy made no apologies, man. Like he was actually dead serious, and he might have just like scared off the only votes he had.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point that you bring up, because I distinctly remember even before the speech, Godfrey, you said, "Hey Zach, like just so you know, I'm gonna say this big thing, but I don't actually mean it." And then you went out crazy, yeah. and then everybody else in the house was like, "Oh, I'll get behind Godfrey," but then you came back to us. I meant it, yeah. Yeah, you came back to us. You're like, yeah, that was really good. I was just playing.
It didn't work. Yeah. I knew if it didn't work, I would have needed your guys' help either way. So I'm like, you know what? Let me say it, but let me warn them that, you know what? I may not be 100% serious about it. So but yeah, I'm enjoying the speeches. Well, I'm enjoying the speeches.
Yeah, me too. I think it adds a different element to the show. It makes it more entertaining. And like you said, I think it's probably, for some of these people, it's probably worse for their game, but it ends up being better TV. So it works. I think it works out for us. And I think the bigger difference as well is, I think, Godfrey, last year, I think that a lot of the people in the house you were genuinely friends with everyone in the house. Whereas I think this season, a lot of these people genuinely do not like each other, and they don't get along.
I think
right. Yeah. So I think for you, you know,
it's
you were
some real bad blood.
Yeah, there was nothing personal there. Whereas for these people, I think that there is a little bit. I mean, especially with Maddie and some of those speeches she was giving, it was personal with some of the things that she was actually saying. Okay, let's jump back to the front of the episode. Something that I really enjoyed, a really great moment that Big Brother kind of stole from Survivor here. Using the family competition in order to determine now for
was so mad when I saw that, man.
Yeah, so let's talk about this family.
I'm like,
so why
I
are you
had
mad?
to earn seeing my family in my season.
Oh, so that's why you're mad.
I had to earn that. We had to battle it out. We had to eat pizza. I had to be trapped in a suit with Ashley Wood, and taste pizza. Guess whatever flavor it is. Like, yeah, it might seem like an easy job because we were getting to eat, but still, we earned it, man. And, like, right there, like, I see everybody's family come out. I'm like, hell, you might as well just let them join in the house and have a whole huge party, man.
Yeah, it's really,
really way
tough.
Too easy, man. I'm telling you, they got it way too easy.
Really tough job, Godfrey, being stuck together with Ashley Wood. I mean, oh my goodness. Most young 20-something males would hate to do that. That is just the worst thing ever. But for real, I'm surprised that you say that, because I love this. And maybe, Godfrey, it's because I never would have won that pizza eating competition. But I thought it was great that all of the house guests got an opportunity to see their family. I mean, last year, we've seen it every season of Big Brother Canada. There has been a family moment. Season 1, we had Andrew and his twin brother Pete. Season 2, we had all of them see their families in order to give some things up. Season 3, we had you and your sister Ella. And we also had Ashley. And then, so I thought, okay, it's going to happen at some point. So very cool that I think everybody got a little bit. And also, it was cool that we got to see them play in the competitions. Godfrey, what did you think?
To be honest, I think it's mostly because, Oh yeah, yeah. Like the competition, it was definitely awesome. You know, like having their fate rest in the hands of their loved ones. Like I think that was a really, really cool element, and it also made the competition like really fair. It wasn't like, because I know like some people had their grandma up there and their mom, so it's good that they didn't make it physical or super hard. It was really fair for everybody. And as far as the families, I think that they probably did it because like Tim's dad flew all the way from Australia and Nikki's friend, so like it's kind of cool that like at least they got something out of it. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm not flying halfway across the country just to play in a competition, man. Like, at least they got to see them that way, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That would have been rough if you have to fly, I don't know, 18 hours or whatever it is, and then just turn right back around, see you later, don't even get to see your kid. That would be awful. Brent, did we get a sense of how long they were in the house, Brent? Because that on the episode, it seemed like it was very quick, maybe 2 minutes. I know the feeds were down, but did they talk about it?
Oh, I mean, it was talked about all night. I mean, I think they were there for probably like 20, 30 minutes. The feeds were down. I didn't see any of it. But, like I said, everybody got some piece of information from the outside world. Jared continually believes that his sister said that he could sort of trust Cassandra, although I've maintained that was a bit of a communication misunderstanding. Like, I don't think that's what she was really saying, but he definitely talked himself into believing that. Yeah. Cassandra's dad told her, like we talked about 3 pieces of information: that she eats too much, that she stopped looking at Tim's dingling, and to what was the other thing? Like, just to listen more to people and to talk less. So I didn't love this. I mean, the competition itself, like, yeah, was it cool seeing the family members? Yes, but we don't know their family members, so it's great for the house guests. But I didn't really care about it. Like, I mean, who are these people? I don't know these people, and they're not very interesting to look at or to talk to. And then besides that, the competition itself was really boring. Like, it was just literally watching rocks fall. It was exciting as watching rocks fall, which Taryn tweeted earlier today, and he's totally right. Like they couldn't have come up with a better comp for this. Like, whatever.
Well, I think what it came down to was, like Godfrey said, I think they had to make it something where it was an even playing field, and it couldn't really be a quiz competition, because the outside information and all that kind of stuff. So, and they haven't been there for everything.
Outside information in the Big Brother Canada house? Really?
Oh, never. Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, I see what you're saying, but I think that they were restricted a little bit in terms of what they can do. So I get why they went that route, but yeah, certainly it could have been more interesting. Godfrey, of all of the family members, who did you enjoy seeing the most?
Of all of the family members?
Yeah.
I'd probably say like Cassandra's dad was like he was pretty funny. Yeah, he was pretty funny. Cassandra's dad. And then I also like the one part where Nikki's friend goes like, "Oh yeah, I know Nikki doesn't really have to win this competition." I'm like, man, is he gonna throw it? Yeah, I think that would have been super cool if one of the loved ones just threw the comp and they were like, "You know what? I'm doing this for your game." Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, he was like, he's like, yeah, Nikki really wants. I don't know if Nikki really wants the power, but I know she really wants the vodka. So I should probably try to win this HOH. Was that her friend, or was that her brother, Brent?
That was like her business.
No, that was a friend.
That was a friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't any relative, that's for sure.
Okay. Yeah, because I found it interesting. Because his last name was different than hers, and then Kelsey's sister also had a different last name than Kelsey. I think. Like I think Kelsey's last name is Faith, and then her sister, I think it said like Courtney Hope was her name, like Hope and Faith.
They did sort of look alike though. Like
they did.
I saw it, I was like, wow, they look really alike. So.
And
maybe cousins, perhaps.
Yeah,
they look really.
Yeah, so very, very interesting how that turned out. Ultimately, Cassandra's dad wins it. I think he probably is at the top of the power rankings. Brent, if we're going to do a Big Brother Canada family member rankings podcast in the off season, I think we got to put Cass's dad at number 1. I think he was pretty great. Next to Peter Brown and Alec Beale's moms, who did the Shield thing in season 1. I don't know if you remember that segment, but that was pretty funny. Good times. Okay. Okay. Lastly, before we jump into the live feeds, Godfrey, we've seen tons of segments this season. What do you think about that? We saw this wedding segment with Nikki and Joel, where if they got married, all they had to do was get married, and then have-nots would end for good. Thoughts on this quote-unquote task, and do you think they should have made it be something harder?
Yeah, definitely. I think it should have been a little bit harder. Because come on, there, like, if you guys can get this thing ever, like, how are they not gonna be able to get through it? Like, well, what is Nikki gonna be like? Hey, I'm not marrying him. We're gonna eat. I'd rather eat slop. Like, I just feel like that was a cop out, you know. Like, at least give them something that like the audience believes to be tough, you know. But yeah, that was way too easy, man. Way too easy.
Yeah, and if you're gonna do a wedding, like, why not bring out I mean, there's already all this outside influence anyway. Why not bring out all of the Toronto alumni from Big Brother Canada and throw them in the house and let them, or at least in the backyard, and let them witness the wedding? Like, Godfrey, wouldn't that have been so cool if you, Greg, and Bobby could have crashed this wedding? That would have been amazing. I mean, and this got me thinking.
The only way I would have enjoyed the wedding is if they made Kelsey marry Phil. Because Jared would have flipped. He might have self-evicted because of that. Like, honestly,
he's evil.
So that would have made it interesting.
That would have been so good. Or Nick, yeah, that would have been. Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, that actually would have made it tough. That would have been an interesting way. Because yeah, Nikki and Joel were such a. I don't know. I don't. Yeah, right. Like what? I don't really understand what the appeal is.
Bad TV. It's their. I don't know. It's Big Brother Canada's continued insistence on trying to make Joel one of the stars of the season, and he's like I said. I tweeted this earlier. He's got the personality of a turnip. Sorry, I don't like him.
Joel is good, Brent. How dare you say that about my boy Joel?
Yeah.
I love Joel. He's great. Godfrey, thoughts on Joel this season? And
he's good as a player. I think.
He's good as a player, but you don't like him as TV.
Like me, my thoughts is like Joel definitely like I'm like that. Joel is gonna be like the Joel Parhar. He's gonna be like the Steve Moses. He's gonna be like he's gonna be that type of mold of like, you know, of the nerd genius, you know. But coming in the house, like, he honestly doesn't seem that smart. Like, it seems like things are just falling in place for him, you know? And he's doing the basics, I'll give him that. He's doing the basics, the Big Brother 101, but he's not like the supermind genius who's plotting stuff. And, like, that's really what I was expecting from him a little bit more, you know? I feel like it's just kind of like, you know, he's playing the good guy so far. But I want more of, like, you know, the manipulative Joel, who's kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes. But I just haven't seen that. He's more like, you know, just like relying on his personality and that people find him adorable. And, you know, like, who knows, it might be enough to get him the win, but I want to see him, you know, get his hands dirty.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think the fans would probably agree with that. I think it would be more entertaining. But I think Joel probably realizes, hey, I don't have to get my hands dirty. I'll let Cass and Tim do this. I'll let all these other people find it out. I'll just sit back
Cass and Tim do the dirty work.
Yeah, and then I'll just win, you know, 2 competitions at the end, and I'll win $100,000. And as of right now,
well, that's what I did, and look how it worked out for me.
And to Godfrey, a little different. I think you were pulling a lot more strings than Joel is right now, and you're not giving. Godfrey, you're being so self-deprecating tonight, man. We're talking about one of the best games in BBCan history, my friend. No,
you took my soul. Nah, I'm just kidding around, man.
yeah, exactly. You took my soul, just like Tim borrowed my soul last week when he volunteered to be a
borrowed it for that week.
Yeah, exactly. I saw you tweeting about that, Godfrey.
Still don't know how he survived, man. I was like, why are you gonna do that? Of all the players you can emulate, you choose JP. They made him watch the wrong season, man.
Yeah, he must have been sequestered. They gave him the wrong DVDs. They just gave him week 5. They were probably thinking, oh, we want to make him like Godfrey, and then instead he was like, oh, well, I like that JP guy's strategy. Why don't I try that out?
I like that JP guy. Yeah.
So before we get into the spoilers, Godfrey, let's quickly talk about Tim's game, because he was playing a very strong game up until last week. He got a little bit complacent, a la Jordan Parhar. And now he seems to be okay because Cassandra's in a spot. She's HOH, so he should be fine for this week. But are you as high on him moving forward as you may have been heading into last week?
Like right now, I actually think he's in a much better position now. Because since he did not win HOH this week, that's another week in which he doesn't get his hands dirty and he doesn't ruffle any feathers. And now it's Cassandra doing, like, you know, the upsetting people. So I think, like, right now, if perhaps the brothers survive next week, they might be coming after Cassandra, you know, as opposed to Tim. Because, you know, like, that's kind of how it works, you know. Like, people go after the person who most recently did them wrong, and they kind of forget the other person who was also going to do them wrong. So I think right now, he's sitting pretty for a little bit, you know.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I think that for sure. I think you look at even someone like Maddie. She was adamant on getting rid of Jared and Kelsey, and then as soon as the brothers put her up, she was okay. Well, now if I survive, I'm going to go after the brothers because you think it's you know,
the wound was still fresh from the brothers.
Exactly, and I think, you know, something that you know well, Godfrey, is that when you're in the house, I mean, a week is like a month. Like, that's a long amount of time. People forget things very quickly. So, I mean, if, you know... In
your mind, you're thinking, let bygones be bygones.
Exactly.
But like you're thinking, oh, that happened so long ago. But it just happened, like, last week, you know, but you forget that because time is moving so slowly. So, yeah, I think right now he's kind of safe for a little bit, you know. Like, to be honest, I myself don't want to see Tim win because I actually think it would look bad on the rest of the house, and I'd really feel embarrassed for them coming out. Like, as I know, I'd feel bad myself, man, if I let another guy from not even a neighboring country, like this guy came from a different continent, and he comes into your country and literally wins your game. Like, I think that's really a bad look, man. That just shows bad gameplay on their part. And not only is he a player coming from another country, he's a player who has won in his own. Right. So he conquered his own big brother, and now he's going to conquer ours. Yeah, that's why I kind of, for the sake of the Canadian house guests, I do not want him to win.
Yeah, I think right now, I think his odds are, I think they're lesser than they were a few weeks ago. I think people are on to him. Like you said, I think maybe Cass coming out into the spotlight may hurt her a little bit more. But at the same time, I think, you know, we even saw Kelsey on the episode tonight. She was comparing Tim to Mitch and all this kind of stuff. So I don't think Tim is going to win, but really? I mean, he still could. So there's still time. Lots of game left to play. Let's jump into the spoiler section of the podcast. So if you do not want to know who won the power veto and who's the replacement nominee or if there's a replacement nominee and all of that kind of stuff, this is your time to say goodbye. We will see you Wednesday night after the episode will be live at 10:15 Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Pacific. I will be live with Jason Roy from Big Brother 17, and we will be recapping all of that stuff live on RHAPpy.com. Make sure you check that out. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast as well.
Well, I guess it's my time to go now.
No, Godfrey. Godfrey, stay. We don't lose you.
Spoilers, no.
Godfrey, you bastard! You're the first person who has ever done that.
Yeah. I kept waiting for somebody to do it actually, because like it sounds like you're wrapping up the show, so I kept waiting for like the guest to be like, okay, see you later, bye. Like.
Oh, there you go. Godfrey Mangwiza playing tricks on me again. Okay, so don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Go to robbinswebsite.com/RHAPpyHour, and you'll never miss an episode if you go do that. Okay, it is spoiler time. Brent, what is happening? Who has won the power of veto?
The brothers have won the power of veto. Amazingly, Phil wins his first competition of the season.
Wow, so there we go. So Phil has won the power of veto, and then what type of competition was this, Brent?
It's the competition that they pull out anytime that a producer's pet is in trouble. They pulled it out for Gary, they pulled it out for John, and now they pulled it out for the brothers. It's the how bad do you want it competition, and I really feel like that like it was preordained the minute this competition started that no one except the brothers would have won this competition based on the positions that they are in the house and based on the punishments that were being handed out. Like, and we're going to break it down again. I don't even think they need to they needed to run the competition. The brothers were going to win this hands down.
Okay, so what interesting stuff. So the brothers have won HOH. What were the punishments?
They won the veto.
That were handed out. So the veto. Sorry, I misspoke. They won the veto. Yes, they can't win HOH. Saeed won the HOH for Cass. So they've got the POV. What are the punishments specifically, Brent? I saw on Twitter there were some haircuts given out.
Right, and that's the thing that I have a problem with. Let's work backwards a little bit here. So they ended up winning the competition because the last punishment was, you have to cut your hair and get these really wonky haircuts. Let's take a look at who is in the veto competition, okay? Oh. It's Cassandra, Kelsey, Nikki, Jared with his curly locks, and the brothers besides Joel. So who, like, the brothers have hair that's like 2 inches long. Of course they're going to take the punishment for getting their hair cut. Do you think Jared's going to take that? Do you think Kelsey or Cassandra is going to take that? I will say that Big Brother US All-Stars did this the right way, where they at least gave the women the option to, if you don't want to cut your hair, you can at least dye it pink. So that you had two options, but they wouldn't even give them an option. You literally had to cut your hair. So of course Jared wouldn't do that. Of course Cassandra or any of the other girls wouldn't do that. So
no way.
So the brothers won it. It was just like, of course they're gonna win it. It's such JP. I call it the non-rigging because they didn't. Yeah, it's technically all fair.
rigging.
But we know who's going to win this competition. The brothers are going to win it. Although I will say this. So let's go through the punishments, and then we'll talk about why I think this may even work out better for Cassandra, Tim, and Joel moving forward. The punishments that the brothers got were threefold. They have to wear a skunk suit for the rest of the week, or actually for 1 week. They're going to take turns wearing it. They each had to agree to not play in the veto next week, and that is huge. And they also had to take the bad haircuts. Joel got no showers for 1 week and slop for the duration of the competition. Cass got, she has to be the maid, so anytime that stupid jackpot sign goes off, every time that jackpot sign goes off, poker chips keep falling out, and she has to pick up the poker chips every time, which of course she hates. Who else? Jared had to dunk himself in a bath of eels. And Nikki and Kelsey were apparently holding out for a new car or something. Like I don't know what they were doing in this competition.
Even though Nikki was on the block.
Right.
Okay. Wow. So lots of punishments here then. Wow. So the brothers cannot play in next week's Power of Veto competition, which is going to be the Power of Veto in the double eviction.
Correct.
So Godfrey, the brothers have to be, they've won this veto, but they've got to be toast next week, right? Or during the double at least, right?
Oh, definitely. Like, I just don't see them surviving the double eviction, But at the same time, there is a slight chance, because right now I think the three most important people to get out of the house are 1, the brothers, 2, Jared, and 3, Tim. I think either 2 of those has to leave next week if the house has any common sense left, which they didn't have much to begin with. They need to get rid of 1 of those 3 people because they are a chance to win at this moment. So yeah, the brothers definitely have to be gone by next week, especially right now as they are in a vulnerable position. It will be the perfect chance to get them out. But yet again, Tim was in a vulnerable position last week, and they decided to unanimously keep him. So not even one person was like, I think this is a bad idea. So yeah, the brothers, they gotta go, man. They gotta go.
Brent, let's.
And they got a nice haircut on their way out as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the haircut. So who gave the brothers that haircut, Brent?
See, I haven't been able to determine that. Obviously, I couldn't see the veto. I'm sure somebody on Twitter is going to tweet us instantaneously and tell us who was the one. It's obviously some woman. It was either probably Cassandra, since she's currently out of household.
Wasn't it the host of the veto competition?
Which was, oh, well, that would have been Tim, because Tim was the only one not playing. So.
Well, wasn't there I heard there was a guest host for this competition.
Well, then tell me, because I haven't heard this.
Okay.
Did I miss this?
I wasn't. Didn't Sarah Hanlon host that competition?
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. Because then Cass got the coaching from Sarah. Yes, I'm sorry. I forgot about Sarah hosting. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
sorry, I was thinking about her coaching, not hosting.
No worries. So Sarah Hanlon hosted this comp. She cut the brothers' hair, and then she also gave Cassandra there was a one-on-one strategy session. So how did this work out? Did she have to win this during the competition, or what happened?
Yes, there were a couple of good things that were available during the competition. I don't think we know all of them. The only one thing we know for sure is that Cass got a 5-minute coaching session with Sarah about who to target in the house. Well, Cass doesn't need a coaching session from Sarah, although it's great to have. I mean, I would like to have a coaching session from Sarah. Cass knows exactly what she's going to do if the brothers win the veto. She's going to put up Jared. So this is why I wanted to explain to you, JP. Well, this may even work out better for the Freak Show, which is Cassandra, Tim, and Joel with Nikki tagging along. So remember, the brothers cannot play for the veto during the double eviction. If Cassandra puts up scratch that. If Cassandra puts up Jared will be evicted at the front of the double. Then as long as the brothers don't win head of household during the double, they will be evicted during the double and have to walk out of the house with those fabulous haircuts and a skunk outfit.
That would be amazing. The curse of the costume may continue.
Yes.
Over from Big Brother US. Hasn't really followed up so much up here in the Great White North. Okay, wow. So if Jared and the brothers go home, then we're going to be next week sitting with the Freak Show, which is Joel, Tim, and Cassandra with Nikki tagging along, and Kelsey.
Right.
I feel like Kelsey would be in a really good position at that point if that's basically all who's left, because wouldn't I mean, Godfrey, let's talk this through. If it's Tim, Joel, and Cassandra that are left next week with Nikki and Kelsey, if you're Joel, wouldn't you start gunning for Tim at that point?
To be honest, I'd start, if we are at that point, if I was in the house, I would not go for Tim. I'd rather go for Kelsey, because Kelsey is the one who has been in a power alliance for pretty much the entire season. Got voted out, got a chance to come back in. I'm not quite sure if that would hurt or help her. It really depends on who's in the jury and how they see it. I know in our season, probably people might have some animosity if you came back again in the house and might feel you don't really deserve a second chance. But in this season, it might actually play out that people respect somebody who came back in. So that, I'm not quite sure how that factor would, influence their decision, but for sure I'd want her out, especially when Mitch said he would give his vote to one of the third wheel alliance members. And let's not forget, if Kelsey is left with Cassandra and Tim and Joel, that means you have Jared, that means you have Raul or Rail in the jury, and they're definitely campaigning for Kelsey to win. And in the jury, if you have 2 people campaigning for you, there's a really good chance that they could influence the rest of the jury and tell them, hey, this person played a great game. So I just don't think it's a wise decision, she has more friends than everybody else in the jury right now.
I'm in agreement with Godfrey on this one, actually, JP. I know it looks very tasty to take both Kelsey and Nikki into the final 5 with you, and that's what would happen if you get the brothers and Jared out. But at that point, I feel like you have to remove one of the GOATs. And I don't think Kelsey is a true GOAT, but I think that people might see her that way and want to bring her forward in the game. So I think it's very dangerous for somebody like Tim or Joel to keep 2 GOATs in the game at that point. I feel like you have to remove one of them, get yourself down to a final 4, and just see how it shakes out from there. Also, the thing about getting Jared out now is that it's been driving me crazy because Kelsey, it's in her best interest to get Jared out of the house. She cannot win against Jared. She's not even really a fan of this show. She has $100,000 that she could win at the end, and as Godfrey says, there's certainly a possibility that she could win it. But inexplicably, she's fighting against her own self-interest because she continually goes to Cass and wants to save Jared, even though it's clearly better for her game for her not to. So I don't know if Godfrey can talk about this. Some girl in the house who met this boy, they're in a showmance, they have some feelings for each other. I don't even know what they are, but she's willing to give up winning the game just to keep him safe. Like, is it just inertia at this point that she wants to keep saving him, or does she feel some sort of like...
That sounds familiar.
Okay.
I had a girl like that in my own season. Yeah.
I remember. I remember.
So like I have a little bit of insight as to how this works, you know. Jordan might know even better since he was part of that alliance. But hey, when you're in that house, man, and like you have a showmance, like to the rest of us, it might look like just a showmance, you know. But to them, things might be getting a little real, you know. So like I really think that like her judgment is definitely clouded. She's not thinking things clearly. Like right now in her mind, it's like if she wins, Jared wins. Or if Jared wins, that's a win for her. And I think that's a really toxic way to look at things. She needs to remember that she's an individual, and Jared is way stronger than her. And there's already this idea that Jared is the one calling the shots. He's the one orchestrating things. And right now, she just looks like his guardian angel, like she's handing the game to him. And yeah, you know, like she will certainly lose next to him. She certainly will.
Godfrey hit the nail on the head. I think that's totally. I think that's totally where she's thinking with things. I think also too, Kelsey looks at things on a very basic level because she's not a huge fan of this game. So I think that's where that thinking comes from. At least just based on my point of view, I think she just feels that okay, yeah, I just need to get my alliance as far as it can get there, and then I'll figure it out from there. And also too, I think Kelsey thinks she can argue against Jared that she can win because you saw her reaction when Phil and Nick said to her, "Hey, you're not winning this game, Kelsey. No one's going to vote for you." She was appalled. She was like, "What?
Oh, yeah.
No way." She was like, "Of course, no, I can win. Of course I can win." So I think Kelsey thinks she can beat Jared in the end, and I don't think she really cares. And to speak on the showmance thing, I think when you have a showmance in there, as much as it looks like a showmance, and as much as we've seen Jared and Kelsey fight and have their squabbles, you do form a really strong bond with that person when you are in that relationship with them in the house because you're in there and time is so magnified. It really does seem like a much stronger relationship than on paper it really should be, regardless of whether that relationship is one in which your showmance votes you out or it's one where you go very far in the game with them. I think that you have a special bond with that person. After the game, things always change for most people, but that's just really how it works, at least from my perspective and based on the people that I've talked to that have also been through it. Let's take some of your guys' questions. So if you want to get in a question for us, again, two ways you can do that. You can tweet me. I'm at Jordan Parhar. Use hashtag RHAPpy. You can also leave a comment on the YouTube video below. Let's take this one question. This one's from Sasha K. Sasha K says, "What happened to Phil's crush on Nikki?" Brent, what happened there? Phil had a big crush on Nikki at the beginning. It seems like that is not a topic of discussion anymore.
Well, no, I think it may still be there, but, first of all, the brothers have definitely, in their effort to save Jared, which I don't know why they're doing this. It's such a losing battle. Again, the brothers just want to bro down with Jared. It's so laughable. They want to sit at the cool kids table. I don't know why they're doing this, because in doing so, they're losing the trust of Nikki. Nikki is a gamer at this point in the sense that she's at least at Big Brother Canada 101. Like, she understands that the brothers have been trying to get her evicted this week. They want to try to save Jared, and she's ticked about it. She's like, I'm never gonna talk to them again, and Jared, he's never gonna get my jury vote, and she's into the spirit of things now. So I like that a lot. But Joel has done some really good work scooping
He's learning the game.
Yeah, exactly. Joel has done some really good work scooping up Nikki at this point in the game. Nikki and Joel, it wasn't an accident that they were in that wedding together. Joel and Nikki have become fast friends. I think Nikki really trusts Joel in the same way that she trusted Mitch. She sees him as a kind-hearted person who's not going to lie to her. So I think Nikki wants somebody like that to win the game. So she's definitely pro freak show at this point.
Okay, Pro Freak Show, Nikki. Okay, here we go. This one is from Paul Rower. Paul says, how do you think this crop of house guests will adjust to getting back into the real world? Personally, I have a hard time imagining people like Maddie, and to some degree the Pax Bros, are emotionally prepared for how vicious the social media community can be to former house guests. And this is a really interesting question. I think that this season the people, I don't, because last season, Godfrey, we had so many super fans, so I think people were prepared for it to some extent. Yeah. But this season there are far fewer of those people. So do you want to just talk about that? Let's just talk, for you in general, when you got out of the house, did you get more hate on social media than you expected or less?
Like me, well, like honestly, I stayed, even though I was on social media, like I stayed away from comments. I did not necessarily read anything that I thought would upset me. So, you know, like I didn't like go through the YouTube videos. I don't think I've ever even watched a YouTube clip of myself unless somebody like DMs it or, you know, like texts me the clip. But like, you know, I just stayed off going on social media, reading the comments of what people are saying to me, you know. Like I read a couple, like what they roasted the other house guests, but you know, I try to stay away from, you know, anything that people could be talking disparagingly against me, you know. And I think that really helped me a lot. And it's only like in the past few months that I've now been reading stuff that was going on, like, you know, like during our season. And then I'm seeing, you know, like people go like, hey, Godfrey sucks, he's sleeping, you know. Some people are like, Godfrey's great. And now it really doesn't bother me because it's been like so long since I was in the house that now it's like whatever. But I can imagine reading that fresh out of the house and like, you know, let's say I'm somebody like Phil who thinks I'm playing a Dan Giesling type of game, and then I come out and people are pretty much like, hey, Jocasta, hey, Victoria, like that's gotta be, you know, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah, that's not gonna feel too great if for Phil. Hopefully he can figure that out when he gets out. And it's tough. I mean, I've been there. I've gotten a lot of hate on social media, and it's not fun. So I mean, mind you, I expected it. So I think that's the difference. Is I think that these guys aren't. Some of them at least aren't expecting it, and it's really gonna hurt when they do get it. So that's the thing with Big Brother. If you're watching this, please do not hate on the house guests. They already get enough hate from all these other people. If you want to hate on people,
it's like if you were playing.
Go ahead, Godfrey.
It's like if you were playing a savage game. If you were playing a savage game that was cutthroat, and you come out and people are like, I hate you. You're so manipulative. You're gonna be happy. You're gonna embrace that. But if you're playing a good guy game where you think you're honest, and then you come out and people are like, man, you're the biggest snake I ever seen, you're going to be really upset. So it all depends with how you want it to be seen versus how you end up being seen, you know. Like, you know, like maybe you wanted to be the funny guy, you come out, people are like, you're a snooze bust. And let's say you wanted to come in and be a serious guy, and then people are like, you're a freaking joke, man. You are the funniest guy on the show. And like, yeah, that's the thing that sucks about it. You're never seen the way you want it to be seen.
Yeah, it's tough, man. That's what Big Brother does for you. You learn a lot about yourself when you go on the show.
Hey JP, I think the brothers will be fine. In particular, like you know, you saw them tonight. Like even when they were like talking with Jared, and they were like, we haven't been throwing you under the bus, and Jared clearly knows they've been throwing him under the bus, and they're like, even Phil's like giggling under his breath, like he I don't think he takes it too seriously. I think he knows that they even said in the diary room, we know we've been caught. So they know they got caught. So I think like when they get out of the house and they see some of the stuff, they know they haven't played a perfect game. Like they're just talking amongst themselves. Like they know they screwed up.
All right, we got another one from Megan S. She says, Godfrey, who do you think is playing a game most similar to yours this season?
Like I think the most similar game to me this season would definitely have to be I'd say it's definitely Cassandra, you know. At first, I really could not even I didn't even like recognize her game at all. I thought I was like, man, you know, like Tim. I thought Tim was playing a more similar game to me. But then, like, the more I noticed, I think like Tim kind of has a side that's well established now, whereas I didn't really pick a side at all. Like I always try to ride the middle, and the way Cassandra has been doing it right now, it's really impressive, you know. Like, I feel like Jared has her trust to the point where he was even telling Kelsey that, hey, we don't have to worry. We're not going up. Cassandra's cool with us. And then Tim thinks he's cool with her. Like, you know, Joel, Nikki was like devastated, you know, like she's having a wedding and then she's told she's going up. She clearly thought she had some rapport with Cassandra. So I think Cassandra's playing a good game, you know. Like I just hope she doesn't make the same mistake I made towards the end of playing it too low key. So right now I think she really needs to make that one cutthroat move where, you know, just for show so that the people in the jury can be like, oh, okay, I guess I can give her my vote now. She evicted the guy. So unfortunately, that's what it's come to. You know, you got to do these things for the jury to kind of see your game. So
right.
I really hope she does that. But I think she's playing the closest right now.
I agree with that, JP. Taryn, one of the other live feeders, tweeted on social media earlier today that he thinks that Cass having to nominate Jared and consequently evict him will, you know, really hurt her game in the eyes of the jury. I don't share that opinion. I think that Jared, once he calms down, will be able to respect the move. He knows that Cass cannot win against him. Once he's in the jury, and remember, he'll be there for like 2 weeks, he'll be able to calm down. Like I think I think this will help her game.
Yeah, I think it gives something to her resume, right? So, I mean, ideally the brothers, because you don't burn bridges, but, I mean, right now I think her hands are tied, and that's the only move she really has. Last question here for Godfrey. This one is from Muhammad Abdi. He says, Godfather, big fan, my man. If you had to bet on someone to win, who would you pick? I have said Joel in the last week. Brent has said Jared is going to win. Godfrey, who do you think is going to win?
Oh, man, Muhammad, what's up, man? Yeah. Honestly, right now, if I had to bet my money, even though I like Cassandra and think she should win, if I had to bet my money right now, it's a tough one, but I'm going to go on a limb and say I'm going to go with Joel.
Oh, there we go.
Like, they had not taken him seriously enough. Like, the way he has laid low this week, it's actually scary. It's like no one's going like, Joel. I'm like, a couple of weeks you guys were gunning for him. You were going like him and Mitch are the most dangerous guys. And now it almost seems like everybody's trying to eat each other out now. So I think he's going to survive all the shots in this crossfire. And like, I'd really be like, I'd be happy to see him win, you know, like, so I'd bet my money on him right now. Like, I think he can pull it off. I just hope he doesn't get, his ego doesn't get too big and he does something totally. He just needs to keep doing what he's doing right now, being a nice guy, and I think that's enough for him.
By the way, two things. I picked Jared before the results of this veto competition came in, so I thought, you know, Jared has been so lucky all season. I thought his luck would continue. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. Joel has been great because, you know, even when Cassandra has been kind of overthinking this because Kelsey's been in her ear, and, you know, if you talk to someone long enough, as we saw with Austin on Big Brother 17 last season, if you continually talk to people for hours on end, eventually you sort of convince them of whatever you're trying to argue. So Joel has been good about keeping Cassandra and Tim on track. Like, no, we do not want to keep Jared in the house because Kelsey's saying, you know, well, Jared's a target in front of us. He'll always be evicted before us.
Yeah.
I'm like, girl, it's going to be final 6. You got to get him out now. Like, if you don't get Jared out now, he could literally win his way to the end. So Joel has been very good about that. So I do like that from his game. But again, my pick of Jared was before the results of this veto competition. Although I will say that I do think it's just going to be reversed. I thought it was going to be the brothers who were evicted first, but now I just think it's going to be Jared, and then the brothers will be evicted during the second half of the double eviction, assuming they don't win head of household. And by the way, someone just tweeted me and reminded me, if Kelsey somehow pulls out a head of household, I also do think that's one way that the brothers would remain safe during the double eviction, because I don't think that Kelsey would go after the brothers.
Kelsey hasn't won a competition yet, though, right?
Hey, Sabrina, Big Brother 2, anything can happen. Godfrey won the final head of household competition. Like, anything can happen.
I don't know if we want to compare Godfrey to Kelsey. I think Godfrey is in a league of his own.
I'm saying anything can happen. It's Big Brother Canada.
Yeah, Kelsey got to stay in the lane, man. She got to stay in the lane.
Yeah.
But actually, I got to ask Brent this. Like, I've been hearing a lot of chatter on live feeds that, like, you know, like, Jared's been putting in a lot of work. Like, is this true? Like, I heard he's been, like, he has a couple final 2s, man.
Yeah, I mean, he does have a couple final 2s, but, you know, he made a terrible mistake earlier today. Cass was talking to him, and she was kind of hinting that, you know, I might have to put you up, although it was still up in the air.
Yeah.
And she wanted him to tell her that Jared, would take Cass to the final 2 over Kelsey.
Yeah.
he did not do that. He confirmed to Cass that, yeah, I would probably take Kelsey to the end. Like, dude,
And
you
one
gotta
more
lie
thing,
to
one
her.
more
What are
thing.
you, crazy?
Yeah, one more thing. Do they actually know each other, like, before the game, Cassandra and Jared?
Yes. They know
Like,
each other.
how well do they know each other?
That's the thing. I think it's...
Because he was talking about, you let me see your dogs, you let me play with them, how are you going to do me like this?
I think this is what it is. I think it's something like maybe he was a junior and she was a freshman, and maybe she was over at, or he was over at her parents' house for a party or something. Like, they only know each other from an acquaintance level. They weren't close or anything. Although Jared has maintained on the feeds that he's going to use this information to make sure that Cass doesn't put him up or evict him, which, by the way, it's not going to work. And Jared also has said on the feeds that if Cass evicts him, that Cass, will be shunned in the community. I guess it's Winnipeg that they're both from, which he was totally being a jerk when he said that. That's not true. Yeah.
Well, she will be accepted by Johnny.
Like, what is he, the mayor of the town?
Yeah, exactly. She'll be accepted by Johnny Colatrulio. I know that for sure, because Johnny is a big he's a big Cassandra fan, and he's also Winnipeg. So Cass has got a home somewhere at least if Jared goes that route. But he's not actually going to do that. That's just all talk. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of the Reality TV Happy Hour. Thank you to everybody so much for joining us live on robezwebsite.com. For those of you in the chat, if you've got ideas for hashtags, would love to get those. So if you want to send those our way while I'm winding things down, that would be great. Godfrey, thank you so much for your time, man. Really appreciate it. You can follow him on Twitter. He's at the Lady Pleaser. Godfrey, anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Oh, like, absolutely not much right now, man. I've just been keeping a low profile, bro, yeah.
Keeping a low profile, that's what the Lady Pleaser does. The Messiah. Make sure you give him a follow. And check out my podcast I did with Godfrey back in, I think it was in February we did that, where we talked about Godfrey's game for Big Brother Canada.
Like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, so it was a really, really fun podcast. Godfrey went really in depth with his entire game last season, and Godfrey's just amazing. It's just a great podcast. You hear about Godfrey's life in Zimbabwe as well. You hear about getting launched.
The hard times getting launched.
Yeah, lots of stuff from Godfrey's life that is super interesting. That I think if you're a fan of Big Brother, you're a fan of Godfrey, I highly, highly recommend you check that out. And if you want a link, feel free to tweet me, and I will send that your way. You can follow Brent on Twitter as well. He's at OneLuckyGay. Brent, I don't know when. I don't know when we'll have you back on the podcast. Sometime next week, I think.
Probably in July, because that's because I've not enough. You'll see me in July. Yeah.
Yeah, Brent's getting a little bit of a break, but that's okay. We'll have Brent back. We'll have him back soon next week. I don't have the entire schedule laid out just yet, but stay tuned for that. For more Brent Wolgamott. Okay, hashtags. I'm looking in the chat. Hashtag Prince of Persia Saeed. Hashtag Cassandra's dad. What about hashtag laughable, Brent? That was something that came up a few times. Yeah, I think that's a good one. So why don't we go? I just came up with that myself. Let's go with hashtag laughable. If you have a comment about the podcast, something you thought was interesting that we said, or you enjoyed the show, feel free to let us know on Twitter. I am at Jordan Parhar. Godfrey's at the Lady Pleaser, and Brent is at OneLuckyGay. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back Wednesday night live after the episode with Jason Roy from Big Brother 17. Should be a lot of fun. We will see you guys there. Okay, for Godfrey Mangwiza and Brent Wolgamott, I'm Jordan Parhar. Hashtag laughable. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Peace out.